Welcome to this yoga class for runners. So you'll want a strap or a tie or something, as well as some type of ball to roll your foot on. So a tennis ball could work, Thera ball. And then you also want a folded up yoga mat, towel, blanket, something like that. And maybe some water. Today I'm having some water with electrolytes because it's really hot here in Texas. We'll begin this practice in a comfortable seated position, so finding yourself there on the mat, palms face down on the knees for grounding. And in this practice, we'll start with some shorter holds, and as we go, they'll get progressively longer, more into that yin style practice. And as you're sitting here, focusing on your breathing. See if you can deepen the breath with each inhale and fully exhaling. In through the nose and out through the nose. Focusing on this deep breath as we go through this practice, and you can carry this through into your running practice. As you're ready, bringing that right hand across to the left knee, and then taking a side stretch over to the right. Breathing into that side body, really rooting down through those sits bones. Feeling the space in the side body with each inhale. And on your next exhale, bringing that opposite hand to opposite knee, so arms are crossed here, folding forward over those legs. Completely relaxing the head and neck down. Unclenching the jaw. And directing that breath into the back body. Breathing in deeply, fully expanding through the back body. Exhale, letting it go. On your inhale, rolling that spine up, keeping the arms crossed, and then either hands to the shoulders here, or maybe interlacing those arms, palms facing towards each other in eagle arms. Actively drawing those shoulders down the body. As you lift the elbows about to shoulder height, looking between those hands. Breathing into that space through the shoulder blades and releasing here. Rolling at those wrists. And changing the cross of the legs if you're cross-legged here, if you're kneeling, remaining kneeling, or moving in any way you may need to. Taking this practice on the other side, so once again focusing on those full belly breaths. Maybe rolling the shoulders back and down. Breathing into the deep abdomen all the way up to the top of the chest, and exhaling from the top of the chest down to the belly. In and out through the nose. And this time taking the opposite side stretch. So whichever side you didn't do last time, taking that side stretch, bottom arm is across, reaching to opposite knee. Rooting down through those sits bones. Breathing along the side body from the hip all the way up to those fingertips. And then rounding forward, crossing those arms, releasing the head and neck down. Breathing into the back body. Unclenching the jaw. On your next inhale, coming up and keeping those arms crossed, either hands to the shoulders or wrapping those arms around each other, palms facing towards each other, eagle arms. Actively drawing shoulders down the back body, elbows about to shoulder height, looking between those hands, and taking those full belly breaths, feeling that expansion through the front, sides, back of the body, and exhale, contracting everything into that midline. Releasing those hands and maybe circling out those wrists as you release. And making your way into a seated position with feet out wide to either side of your mat. Windshield wiping those legs side to side, creating some movement through those hips. Maybe looking over opposite shoulder. And then as you're ready, grabbing hold of that strap or tie, legs out long in front of you, releasing any fleshy bits from your sides, and then placing the strap or tie around the balls of the feet, so just below the toes, keeping hold of that strap or tie in either hand, opening the chest towards the toes, and as you exhale, folding forward, keeping a long spine. So instead of rounding forward, reaching towards the toes, you want to keep that length in the spine, really pressing through the heels, opening up through the backs of the legs. Breathing into any tightness here. Actively drawing those shoulders back. If you need to, releasing further down on either side of the strap or the tie. Taking one more breath here. And then releasing the strap or the tie to your side, making your way into a downward facing dog. So taking your time to get there as you come to down dog, reaching to the tips of the toes and then pressing heels towards the mat. Lifting up to the tips of the toes, heels to the mat. Focusing on that ankle mobility, opening up through all of the spaces in the toes and the feet. And the next time heels come towards the mat, dropping those knees down and coming back into a toe stand. So either keeping those feet about hip distance apart where they are. You can also modify and bring feet closer together, knees closer together. Notice how that feels. Checking in that all the toes are tucked under. If this is too intense for you, you can always walk those hands forward. Take some pressure off of the feet. Or staying here, hands on the thighs, rolling the shoulders down the back. This can be a pretty intense pose, especially because our feet are generally quite cramped in our shoes. Generally, we're not opening the toes and the feet in this way. So if you notice that discomfort arise, breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth. Letting go of that tension with the breath. As you're ready, we're going to come to standing to continue focusing on some opening of the feet and the ankles. So however you need to get there, making your way into a standing position. And then grounding all your weight through that left foot, coming to the top of the right foot, gently pressing that right foot into the mat to open up through the front of the ankle. Arms can be at your sides or on the hips. And notice if you have any tendency to kind of collapse into this pose. Keep that integrity through the core, engaging it here. Breathing into any discomfort through the front of that ankle. And then releasing, coming to the opposite side, so grounding through that right foot. Gently pressing on the top of that left foot, opening up through the top of that ankle. Once again, core engaged, stacking the spine long. Coming into some ankle rolls here. So keeping the ball of that right foot on the mat as you roll the ankle 3 times in one direction and then 3 times in the opposite direction. And then at your own pace, moving on to the left foot, keeping the ball of the foot on the mat if you can as you roll the ankle 3 times in one direction, 3 times in the other. And then taking hold of your ball, so whether that's a tennis ball or a Thera ball, whatever it is, placing it under one of your feet, we'll do both feet, and then placing a little bit of weight into the center of that foot. And just notice that sensation. Maybe this is an opening for you, maybe you don't feel much there. And then maybe move the ball towards the heel of the foot, placing some pressure there. Taking our time to get acquainted with the ball and that feeling. If you'd like, starting to experiment with rolling the ball down the length of the foot from the heel to the toes, from the toes to the heel. If there's any area where you find tension, maybe you pause there and roll in a small spot back and forth, or maybe you hold the ball and place some pressure onto it. Whatever you need to do in this practice today. And then as you're ready, switching feet once again, starting with the center of the foot, placing some pressure there. And then rolling the ball towards the heel of the foot, placing some pressure there. And notice the sensation between the leg out front of the body versus keeping the leg closer to the body and that weight being distributed straight down. So it'll be more intense the closer the leg is and the ball is under the body. Maybe rolling the ball the length of the foot. Once again, doing what you need to do here. So maybe there's an area of tension that you want to focus on. As we go to release this practice and move the ball to the side of the mat, notice if there's any differences in the hamstrings as you bend forward. Maybe there's more space or maybe not. And grabbing hold of that rolled up towel, yoga mat, blanket, and then stepping your feet about halfway up the foot onto the blanket or mat, heels towards the ground. Keeping a slight bend through those legs. And then rounding forward. Maybe playing around with the sensation of the fingertips closer to the feet or further away. So taking a variation of this that feels good for the backs of the legs. And using this extra support in this forward fold is really helpful to get into some of those areas that you may not feel as much without just that extra little support, that height here. Breathing into the back body. As you're ready, begin to walk those hands closer into the body. And then carefully releasing that prop to your side. We'll be using it in a moment. Making your way down to the mat in a kneeling position, untucking the toes. There's a few options here. You can either keep the knees and feet at hip distance, or you can bring them together, placing that folded towel, yoga mat, blanket on the calves. So just below the knees, not quite at that bend in the knee, just below that. And then folding forward into that child's pose with a rounded spine, arms by your sides, palms face up, forehead resting on the mat. Now this pose can be pretty intense if the calves and the hamstrings are really tight. If you need to, you can release that prop to your side and take the folded child's pose without it. And noticing the sensations in the body as maybe there's some resistance, maybe there's some letting go. Using that breath to carry you through the pose, especially as we get into these longer holds. And on your inhale, making your way back up. If you were using the prop, placing it to your side. Taking a moment for hydration here if you'd like. As you're ready, coming to sit on your bottom. And we're going to bring the top of the right foot over to the side of the hip, just outside the body. And the left leg is at about a 90-degree angle across the mat here. Maybe this is enough of a stretch for you. Or maybe you come down to the forearms, relaxing the head and neck back if that's okay with the neck and the throat. Maybe you come all the way flat on your back. If you do this, notice if that left knee starts to lift up, maybe coming out of that pose slightly. Actively tucking the tailbone here, feeling that stretch through the top of the right quad, the hip, the ankle, the left inner thigh, the whole front of the body. Breathing into this pose, creating space. If there's any tightness or pain in the low back, backing out of this pose, modifying it as you need it. Instead of going backwards, maybe you lean slightly forwards. So listening to what your body needs here today. On your next inhale, slowly making your way out of this pose. As you come out of the pose, bringing feet to either side of the mat and windshield wipering those knees side to side once again. And then coming to the opposite side, so left top of the foot outside of the left hip. Right leg is about at 90 degrees, flexing that foot. And then maybe staying upright or coming back to the forearms. Maybe dropping head and neck back. Maybe coming all the way on your back. And notice how this side of the body feels. Maybe it's similar to the other side, or maybe this is a completely new experience. And once again, modifying based on what your body is telling you it needs here. Continue taking those full belly breaths in and out through the nose. On your next inhale, slowly Make your way back out of this pose. And this time, bringing the soles of the feet together, knees apart, creating kind of a diamond shape here. So not quite butterfly. The heels are a little bit further away from the body. And then leaning forward, maybe you stay upright there. Maybe you're wrapping those arms around the ankles. If you're doing that and you can reach the thumbs to that inner section of the foot, maybe pressing those thumbs into the foot, releasing tension there. Relaxing head and neck down, shoulders rounding. If you can, relaxing them back away from the ears. Unclenching the jaw, softening the space between the brows. And breathing into any tension you find in the body. Once again, checking in with what your body needs here today. I notice for me personally, sometimes this pose with the wider stance can feel uncomfortable, as if my IT band has gotten stuck and it's not releasing, and it feels like it's catching on something, or there's that bit of pain in the outside of the hip. If that is happening, maybe practice with the feet closer towards the body. So you want to find that edge where you're feeling a stretch without that pain. Staying here for a few more full belly breaths. In your next few breaths, slowly rolling that spine up here. Gently using the hands to bring the knees back together. And then grabbing hold of your ball, placing it on the mat. And then from there, you can either cross the right ankle over the left thigh, or maybe start with the legs extended. Ball is close to you on the mat, and then lifting the body up, placing that ball over the center of the glute muscle. So not the center of the hips, the center of the glute muscle. And just holding it there for a moment. Notice that sensation as the ball presses into that muscle. If that's feeling too intense and you have the leg crossed, you can come back out and keep that right leg extended straight on the mat. So we're taking very tiny movements here. So maybe circling clockwise or counterclockwise. Very small movements, keeping it within that glute muscle region. Avoiding rolling over any type of hip bone or anything. Maybe gently rolling side to side along that muscle. And I'm coming back to hold it in one space, using the breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. There's some tension here. But you can continue rolling if you'd like. In a moment, shifting to the opposite side. So if those legs are crossed, carefully releasing that. Once again, ball on the mat near the body, and then placing the body on the ball. And then switching sides, so crossing left ankle over the right thigh. Somehow I forgot that I just did this side. Maybe it's the heat getting to me, I'm not sure. But switching sides if that leg was crossed. And once again, checking in, maybe this side is tighter and you want to start with that left leg extended. If that's the case, the right foot will be on the mat for support, knee bent. Taking those very tiny movements, clockwise, counterclockwise, maybe gently side to side. Maybe holding it in one space. And whenever you'd like, carefully coming off of that ball, gently releasing the legs, placing that ball to your side, maybe taking another break for water here. And as you do that, checking in with the body. How is it feeling in this practice? What does it need here? We're going to come lay on our backs. On an exhale, hugging right knee into the chest. If this isn't what you need right now, taking another movement. If you're here, intentionally see if you can find that length through the back body all the way from the crown of the head to the left heel. If there's any pressure in that right knee, hugging behind the thigh instead of over the knee. And then grabbing hold of your strap or your tie, placing it on the ball of the foot, so just below those toes, and then extending that heel to the sky. Hands holding each side of the strap. Drawing those shoulders towards the mat, so if you need to, grabbing lower on your strap. Continue pressing through that heel, stretching through the back of the leg. Breathing into any tightness here. As you're ready, shifting both sides of that strap to the right hand. And then left hand coming to your side, extending that right leg out to the right. And the left hand at your side can either be palm facing down for support, or maybe it's out at shoulder height. Whatever helps you ground through the hips as you extend that right heel out away from the body. As you're ready, carefully bending that knee, releasing the strap to your side, and taking a reclined thread the needle. So both knees bent, crossing right ankle over the left thigh, and then either hugging hands behind the left thigh or over the shin, checking in with that knee, hugging shoulders towards the back, low back towards the mat. As you hug those legs towards the chest, Imagine pressing that right knee away from the body, breathing into any tightness through the hip. On an exhale, releasing those legs, coming into twisted root, so completely crossing right leg over the left. Maybe shimming the hips slightly to the right as you let the knees fall to the left, arms out at shoulder height, looking over that right shoulder. And feeling that release through the back body. If this is too intense for you, stacking knees instead of crossing the legs. Adjusting to what your body needs today. On your next inhale, looking back to the sky, drawing those legs up, core engaged. Uncrossing the legs, hugging both knees into the chest and rocking gently side to side, massaging the back body. And coming into this series on the opposite side, so right leg extended, left knee hugging into the chest. And once again, checking in with the knee. So if there's any pressure in that left knee, hugging behind the thigh instead of over the shin. Rolling those shoulders back and down. Finding length from the crown of the head all the way down to that right foot. Taking full belly breaths. And grabbing hold of your strap or your tie, placing it around the ball of that left foot, so below the toes, extending heel to the sky, hands coming wherever they need to on either side of that strap or tie, shoulders towards the mat, pressing through that heel, breathing into any tension through the back of that leg. And transferring that strap, both sides, into the left hand, right hand to your side, and pressing through that left heel as the leg opens to the side here. And notice how this side feels. Grounding through both hips, both shoulders. Taking those full belly breaths. As you're ready, drawing that leg back in, bending the knee, releasing the strap to your side, and coming into that thread the needle. So crossing left ankle over right thigh, threading the arms through, hugging hands behind right thigh or over the shin, flexing that left foot to protect the knee. As you imagine opening the shin towards the chest, pressing knee away from the body. Right foot relaxed behind you, hugging low back towards the mat. As we're in these longer holds, notice that just as in running, when you start to get tired or bored, it becomes more of a mental effort rather than a physical effort. And that's where this practice comes in, to bring awareness back to the breath and then the sensation in the body, back to the breath, and let that carry you through the pose. Coming into our twisted roots, so completely crossing left leg over the right, this time twisting to the right as you look over the left shoulder. If you notice the shoulders coming up off the mat, maybe backing out a little bit, maybe stacking the knees instead. Listening to what your body is asking for in today's practice. And bringing your awareness back to the breath. On your next inhale, looking back up to the sky, using the core as you draw those legs back up. This time uncrossing the legs, taking hands on the knees and making very tiny circles clockwise, counterclockwise, as small as a teacup, releasing that low back. As you're ready, transitioning into happy baby pose. And I'm doing a few dynamic movements here because my ankles were feeling particularly tight. So pressing heels towards the sky, and then as you bring the feet closer together, pressing feet into the hands to release through the tops of those ankles. You can experiment with crossing the ankles. And you can continue that movement or holding it in Happy Baby. Knees towards either armpit. Low back hugging towards the mat. Finding length through the back of the neck. Pressing heels towards the sky. Maybe taking a gentle rock side to side. As you're ready, releasing out of Happy Baby, coming into Shavasana pose. So extending those legs out. Taking one big stretch here, interlacing fingers, pressing them up to the sky and overhead, pointing the toes and opening the mouth as wide as you can there. Drawing the belly in towards the spine, reaching in either direction, taking a breath here. Maybe circling those wrists and those ankles, and then releasing arms by your sides, palms face up, taking Shavasana pose. Shoulders relax down away from the ears. If you'd like to, walking feet further apart or closer together. Finding your final resting pose. As we go through this Shavasana, we'll be doing a bit of a body scan, or if you'd like, you can take a progressive muscle relaxation and actually physically clench and engage those areas of the body as we go through them, and then releasing. If you're doing a body scan, you'll be inhaling, checking in with that area, and then as you exhale, if there's any tension there, imagine releasing it with the breath. So bringing your awareness down to the feet, noticing any tension, and exhale, releasing. Bringing awareness up to the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs, so that whole leg. Notice any tension. And exhale, release. Going up to the hips and the bum, checking in here, notice any tension. Exhale, release. Noticing the difference between tension and relaxation. Moving up through the belly, the back, the chest. Notice any tension. Exhale, release. Moving awareness down both arms from the fingertips to the palms all the way to the biceps. Notice any tension. Exhale, release. Moving your way up to the shoulders. Notice any tension. Exhale, release. Moving up to the neck, the face, the scalp. Notice any tension. Exhale, release. And then taking a moment to notice the body as a whole, from the tips of the toes all the way to the top of the head. And as you exhale, releasing any remaining tension in the body, letting it go. Letting go of any need to breathe in any particular way, allowing the natural breath to take over. Allowing all the work that you did in today's practice soak in. Letting go. If the mind begins to wander, bringing it back to observing the natural breath. As you're ready, maybe begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes, rocking the head gently side to side, preparing for movement. On an inhale, reaching right arm overhead, bending the knees and rolling onto your side, using that arm as a pillow. Taking a few moments to rest. As you're ready, gently pressing yourself back into a comfortable seated position. Palms face down on the knees. Noticing how you feel in your body here. Maybe taking a moment to thank yourself for coming to the mat, connecting to the breath and the body, spending this time to open up. On an inhale, arms reach overhead. Exhale, hands through heart center, sealing in your practice. Namaste.